Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Layman's Law School, where normally three Southern gentlemen lawyers talk about the issues of the day. But today I am joined by two Southern belles, and I'll introduce them in just a second. But first, we today are going to be talking about a couple of things that are in the headlines. That is Carlee Russell and what might be coming her way. I have to now introduce my guests. These are some of the paralegals here at the Hawk Law Group. And first, I'll introduce Heather. Heather has been working as a paralegal with us since April 30th, 2018. She is an avid outdoorsman. She's more of an outdoorsman than most outdoorsmen you know. She's an incredible fisherman, so in tune with fish that she not only found Nemo, she once caught her with his eyes closed. Most people go fishing. Heather goes catching. She channels her passion for the good of the community and is a dedicated volunteer of Heroes on the Water at Fort Gordon chapter. It's an amazing operation that provides recreational wellness experience for veterans in need, and we'll have a link in the description if you want to donate below. In addition to her legal prowess, she's a gun enthusiast, expert marksman, talented wildlife photographer, and a fun fact, in 2018, she turned down an offer from Dos Equis to be the spokeswoman as the most interesting woman alive. Ladies and gentlemen, give a very warm welcome to the great and powerful Heather Ridgestill.
Wow.
You can put in the applause thing sounds later.
That was a fabulous intro. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome.
That made my whole day. My whole week.
Good. I worked on it for an hour or two today. And that brings me to my next guest, Tanya. She's also a paralegal in our office. Let me see what I have here for Tanya. She is a mother of 2.5. And I'll let her explain that if she wants. And as God intended, she is a huge Georgia football fan. She is an animal lover. And just like my sister, she will gladly mouth kiss a stranger's dog before introducing herself to the owner.
All day long.
Tanya holds a black belt in fuck around and find out. So she is a force to be reckoned with. She's also a tastemaker and local celebrity. She has coined the phrases like, I need a vacation from this vacation, and I'll put them in the trunk and then help people look for them. And she'll have to explain some of that to me. She also holds a Guinness Book of World Records for the most money spent on candles in one day. So I'll let her talk about that in here in a few minutes. So ladies and gentlemen, give a warm welcome to the sweet and beautiful Tanya Boyd.
Thank you, Chace.
You're
Thank
very
you
welcome.
for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
I was so excited to do that. Those things. I did enlist the services of my sister and Whitney too, so they all worked on it. But ladies, today we're going to be talking about a couple of things. I asked you each to bring in a topic, and Tanya, I think you brought in something that you've been following quite closely and have a borderline sort of obsession with.
I do.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When do we get to drink the beer?
Oh my God. Thank you, Heather. You know what? So Reed would be so proud of you right now because I do this absolutely every time. All right. So this is Friday and we've had a long week and we celebrate having a good week at work, which we did. We helped a lot of people. And we got to do what we love to do. So without further ado, we'll celebrate the week. Cheers. And I tell you what, cheers to there being no Bud Light.
Yes. When you invited us to the show, I almost said no because I was scared I was going to have to drink a Bud Light. And I would rather eat a bucket of hair.
I understand exactly how you feel. So Tanya, you brought the topic of Carlee Russell. What can you tell the viewers about that?
So Carlee Russell is, I believe she's 24 years old. She's a nursing student in Alabama. And pretty much the whole world was watching this case unfold for 2 days because she's left work. She's called 911. She tells 911 dispatcher that there is a toddler on the side of the interstate. And then she calls her sister-in-law, and she's telling her sister-in-law that she's going to stop to help this toddler or check on this toddler. And then it's radio silence. The sister-in-law hears her say, "Are you okay?" She hears a scream, and then there's nothing. There's no communication, but the phone line is still on. So, everybody thinks this woman has been abducted. I I'm still wondering, like, in the beginning, I'm like, okay, well, who is missing a baby and where's this baby?
Sure,
or did
sure.
someone
Everybody's
use the
concerned.
baby to lure her?
Yeah, yeah.
So for 2 days, the whole world believes that this woman has been abducted. And now, after she made up a story, now she's admitted that she told a whole lie. There was never a toddler and she was never abducted.
All right. What was the abduction story? Do you remember any parts about that?
Yes, she says that she got out to check on this baby, that a man appeared out of the woods and he was also checking on the toddler. And then he grabbed her and took her and put her in a car. But then she remembers going to the trailer of a truck and that there was a woman accomplice, and she says that she got away and then they recaptured her, but that the woman fed her snacks. It was a very bizarre abduction.
Yeah.
So, they also made her undress. It was very bizarre.
Took pictures.
Yes,
Yeah.
very bizarre.
Yeah, I remember watching this, and I remember when the attorney came out and said that I've been authorized to give the statement that she made all this up, and it was hilarious because I saw on social media a whole bunch of African American women go like, I had a church circle prayer group for you.
I told my grandma about you.
Yeah, exactly. Very upset because everybody was really worried about her. And I think one of the other big implications in it is that it cost the state a lot of money to investigate this. I mean, it was over $100,000 in funds that were expended in order to actually look for her because they thought she was abducted. I mean, they pulled out all the stops to try and help this woman. She was obviously, she alleged that she was trying to help a little baby.
Right.
And so everybody's like, well, let's help her. And the problem is that she wasn't quite aware of just how sophisticated modern society is and being able to track what you do. Because I remember watching the video. Did you see the video?
Yes.
Yeah. So she said she saw the kid, and that car goes for 600 yards after she puts on her hazard lights, and she continues to go for 600 yards before she comes to a stop.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't even think Superman could see 600 yards. When you start watching this video, you're like, how did she even see this toddler?
Yeah, and you can see her lights. And then when I say the modern technology, modern society, DOT monitors a lot of the road system with cameras. And when they get an alert a lot of times like this, they will go actively monitor the cameras. Okay, so like if they have a car accident and they need to get search and rescue there, or if they have a fire or something like that, they will actually move the camera so they can see it better. And that's what they were doing in this particular instance. They got the 911 call, they called DOT, they started recording what was happening, and you look at the lights and you don't see anything in front of that car.
Nothing.
So she wasn't counting on that part. The other thing they didn't count on was some of the investigative work that you can do, because they can go back and look at your Google search history. And she was Google searching, do I have to pay for an Amber Alert? How to take money out of a register without getting caught? A bunch of very sort of telling type Googles. But
In the movie Taken, that was her.
Oh yeah.
I don't know the movie Taken.
Okay,
You
well,
know.
she was trying to figure out how she could abduct herself, I guess.
Yeah.
You need to watch that movie. It's really good. It's got Liam Neeson.
Yeah, you'll be terrified. I took my wife on a honeymoon. We went to Europe, and she was just certain that
Somebody was gonna
she
get
was
her?
like, she wanted to get one of those little pet chips put in there so that I could find her. But no, so I would not recommend watching Taken. But
Don't
what
worry,
are the legal sort of questions that you have about this particular incident?
So I guess I want to know, like, what could be her ramification? She lied to police officers.
Mm-hmm.
She had all of these agencies, local, state, federal, they were all,
Mm-hmm.
on a mission to find her. They'd even put out like a $50,000 reward for her return. And I mean, like, everybody talks about the first 48. That's like the crucial hours when something goes down.
Yep.
I mean, these people were on it. And, like, what are her ramifications for telling stories and putting all these people out? Not to mention the community that she had in an uproar.
Did she have a GoFundMe and things like that? People donating money? to try
I
to
don't
find
think she
her,
got quite that.
No,
that ballsy.
no,
I mean,
it didn't
somebody
last
might have
long
started
enough.
one. Of,
But
yeah,
I think I read that someone donated $20,000 anonymously,
For the
and then the Crime
rescue?
Stoppers came forward and added the rest. But it was like a $50,000 reward. And we're not even a day into this, and they're putting out a $50,000 reward.
Yeah, people really did step up and try and help this lady. And it's a damn shame that it played out the way it did. But it also brings into light some very, I want to say, like, broad and serious legal implications. Number one, like, so anytime you're wanting to develop a criminal statute, you want it to actually deter and punish people for doing something like this, right? And now this has gained national headlines. It's taken over social media. And really, I think the only things that she can be held responsible for are at this stage are misdemeanors. Okay, so she would be filing a false police report, okay? Number one, about the abduction. Number two, so we got 2 counts, abduction and then the false police report about the child that they can't prove. And then there's possible charges for the petty theft because she stole some money and things from her work. And then possible charges for obstruction of justice by continuing to lie to the police. And these are all punishable on one year in jail. It's left up to the discretion of the court. But she'll have multiple counts of these particular charges based on the number of fake reports that she gave. But most people will be very happy to know that she can be fined, okay, and be forced to pay restitution. And the restitution is to make a person that you wronged whole. And they can be connected to a criminal case. And, you know, over $100,000 that were spent trying to look for her, it's going to be within the judge's discretion as to whether or not he wants to take this nurse's salary and garnish it for the foreseeable future. And the fact that it made national news,
he's going to make an example out of her.
Makes it all the more likely. So when we're talking about this stuff and whether or not charges are going to be brought, I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about something called prosecutorial discretion. And that basically means that people can choose to pursue a case or not pursue a case. Even if you're charged with a crime, you have a lot of evidence against you, they can look at the facts and circumstances of the case and decide not to prosecute. For instance, there was a situation where a gentleman followed his wife, who he thought was cheating on him, to another house after he left for work, goes to the house, a gentleman opens the door, the wife runs across in the negligee, and the husband hits him right in his face, right? He was charged with simple battery, went on the other guy's property and punched him, right? Well, ultimately that was dismissed because the prosecutor told the victim and said, hey, you're lucky he didn't shoot you. You know, the guy lost his wife. That's enough. You got a bloody nose. It's over. And that's in the interest of just sort of keeping the peace and doing justice. And that's just one of the other tools that lawyers have in order to actually do justice in a particular situation, because they can take all factors in. And in this particular case, it's going to be exercised in the other way.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
and as it should.
Yeah, as it should, because they're going to want to not only have some sort of retribution, but put an example out there that's like, you can't do this. And
Right.
What was the motive for this?
Was she claiming any mental health issues or
allegedly, and this is just the rumor mill, allegedly she was trying to upset her ex-boyfriend. I mean, it's like a petty child thing to do but it was very extreme on her part and
with serious consequences.
I mean, I don't really know that you could claim. I don't know that she could claim anything mental at this point. She put a lot of thought into it. She even went to Target and bought snacks because she didn't want to be,
without snacks.
Yeah, she didn't want to be abducted without snacks for a couple of days. So she went to Target and got her some Cheez-Its and stuff. So she put some thought into this.
So I'm gonna give her a recommendation. There's a book by Robert Greene. It's called The Art of Seduction. And if she's really interested in getting her ex-boyfriend back, it might instead of planning some elaborate nationally
maybe she should have showed up at his door
kidnapping,
naked.
whatever. Yeah, she can just maybe read and just use a few of those tips and see what happens. Because she actually, I didn't even think about this until I read it. I read an article about it, getting ready for this, and if her parents knew that she had made this up and she had confessed it to that, and then they had made those statements to support her.
Well, interesting that you bring that up, because as I do on everything I get obsessed with, I went down a really deep rabbit hole. And there was actually a TikTok that Carlee Russell made. There was like some TikTok trend going around where people would go into the room with their parents and pretend like they were applying for a scholarship and they were making a video to apply for a scholarship, but it was a joke, it was a prank, and they would say outlandish things. And then their parents would be like, what are you talking about? Like one girl said, my grandma used to be a stripper to put us through, to raise us, to put us through school. And the grandma was like slaps the girl off the couch. So Carlee Russell made one of these videos, and her parents, she was saying outlandish things too for her interview, and her parents were just going along with it. So now the whole world is like, they knew. If they didn't get in on the TikTok prank and they didn't slap her off the couch like the other grandma did, they knew. So they could face charges too, I guess, right?
Yeah, because you'd be aiding and abetting all of the crimes that you were talking about before. We were talking about the obstruction of justice and filing the false police reports. You can also get charged, especially if you get in an environment where you're under oath. Right. You can get charged with perjury, and that carries a 7-year sentence, a possible 7-year sentence. It's again left up to the discretion of the court. But you said you went on a deep dive. Is there any other interesting facts or questions that you might have about this one?
I don't think it went on long enough to go down a deep dive, but I'm just curious to know what she's going to come up with. I feel like some mental claims are going to come out and things like that. But I mean, she faked a whole abduction. And as a woman, I was terrified. I'm like, oh my gosh, this world is crazy. We hear about sex trafficking. We hear about people doing all these crazy things to abduct people. And as a woman, I was terrified because I'm like, oh my God, if I would have seen a toddler on the side of the road, I would have done the same exact thing.
Right. Well, this makes me think that if this does happen and it's legit, are people going to take you seriously?
Mm-hmm. Right. That's just a boy cried wolf.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And there are legitimately people.
Me Too movement.
Correct. There are legitimate people out there missing, and moms who are at home terrified because they don't know where their kids are, and we're spending all this time on this crazy girl who just faked her whole kidnapping.
Well, I think you're going to see ultimately justice done. They're not going to try and ruin this girl's career going forward, because I know she wants to be a nurse. She's a young woman. She made a terrible decision, but I do think it's going to financially cost her for quite some time. So I don't she'll get probably some jail time, but she'll get probably put out on probation after about a year. She won't do all of it. A lot of people don't know this. When you're sentenced, in most cases, you will do about 75% of the time, depending on the type of charge, and then you get a chance to be released. So ultimately, I think that, like I said, we didn't waste too much money, and she's going to be held accountable. So ultimately,
she should.
Story. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this just in. We have breaking news as we sit here in the podcast booth on the Carlee Russell. Tanya.
Yes, my breaking news app has just informed me that Carlee Russell has turned herself in, and she has been charged with falsely reporting an incident. So,
well, here's the thing: is I'm very glad that she went and talked to a lawyer, because in many cases, it's not our job to actually get a person off. If a person's made bad mistakes, they're a good person, they've had a lapse in judgment, and we can see that they're constantly digging themselves a hole, and the best thing to do is to actually throw yourself on the mercy of the court. It's our job in that situation to convince them to do that, and also to make sure that the prosecution doesn't go too far in trying to put the hammer on them. They don't want to do it for some sort of political stunt and make this an example out of this person in a way that's going to burden them forever. And that's what that attorney's job it was and is, and he's so far done a really good job in that, very quickly convincing them to do the right thing.
Yes.
So I'm very appreciative of all the public servants that went out there and looked for her, and I hope that she gets whatever sort of help she needs. Well done to that lawyer for convincing her to do the right thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you very much for joining us on the Layman's Law School. We'll see you next time.